very warm welcome to the FIM Network FIM Junior GP. We are here in the Algarve in Portugal for round 5 of the season. It is the first round of the second half of the season, and we've got plenty of action coming your way. It'll be myself, Tristan Finacchiaro, and Liam Hodgins alongside me, MotoGP social media editor. Liam, first of all, how are you doing? Second of all, are you ready for the second half of the season? And are you ready for a round at one of the most incredible circuits on the calendar?
Good morning, Tristan. Good morning, everyone. Yes, first of all, I'm doing great. Second of all, I cannot be more than ready for the second half of the season. The Junior GP this year has been absolutely fantastic, off-the-wall racing, and it's just going to get better from here on in.
Yeah, we've got plenty of action coming up then. One race, 2 races for Moto2 and 1 race each for the Hawkers European Talent Cup and for the FIM Network FIM Junior GP. But first up then, we've got the Moto2. Who are the names to look out for in this category?
Well, the names to look out for so far this year have been, well, the number 3 of Lukas Tulovic, who has been one of the riders to watch so far, as we see him on the grid there.
And looking a little look at what happened last time out at Jerez for the European Moto2 World Championship, European Championship. It was Lukas Tulovic who started from pole position, but Alex Eskrieg got a brilliant start down into turn 1. There was this crash between the stock riders, and Jamie Davis furious with that one. Lukas Tulovic had this moment halfway through the race, nearly ran into the back of one of his competitors and had to climb his way up through the race. It was a battle of attrition out the front though between the top 3. Eskrieg fighting his way all the way through. Battle between teammates as well, between the promo racing guys of Xavi Cardeluz and the number 81 of Senna Agius, the rookie sensation. But it wasn't long until Eskrieg had enough of the battling. He fought his way through and cleared off out the front. The number 3 then, Lukas Tulovic, found his way to the front as well, picking up P2 after that moment earlier on in the race. Found his way back up to second. Little wheelie to celebrate at the end, but it was Alex Eskrieg taking his maiden victory last time out in Jerez. Who will it be this time out then? We've got Moto2 action coming up, and it's going to be the first pole, well, it's going to be another pole position for Lukas Tulovic, and he's had pole position at every single race so far. So what can we expect to see from him? Well,
what we can expect to see from him is probably another podium fight. If not the win, it will definitely be inside the top 3. But as you said, 5 podiums from this season so far. That is unheard of. Even Fermin Algarve from last year, the champion from 2021, only had 2 pole positions. So that just shows you how much of a dominant force that Lukas Tulovic is on Saturday. But we must remind us that the afternoon session, the Q2 qualifying session, was actually Senna Agius that was quickest in that. So that might come into play for the second race later on today with the warmer conditions. But it was Lukas Tulovic who set a faster time in the morning, which meant he kept the pole position.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we need to remember. Of course, this morning, the conditions are going to be completely different to the race we see later on. But right now, we're focused on this race. It's the first race of the day, the first day of the billing. This is what happened earlier on in qualifying.
The first one, the first outing was amazing. I felt strong on the bike, immediately could set what is now the pole lap time. Second one, I didn't put it together anymore so well, which is really difficult on this track because it's so many different tough corners, blind corners. So the second outing was not that good in the quali one. And now in the second one, I was starting with fused tires, working a bit on the pace, and then when we put the new ones, straight away I had a small crash, so I couldn't improve. But again, pole position, very happy, and tomorrow we fight for the victory. I think in the first one won't be too cool as well, so yeah, strategy will be in both races quite similar, and I think we have 2 or 3 riders that can run on a similar pace, so for sure will be an interesting race again.
Another pole on the season then for Lukas Tulovic, and he's going to be eyeing up to return to victory. So far he's had 3 wins and 3 second places, 3 wins at the beginning of the season, and now he's had a run of second places. Is now going to be looking to take those victories again, but having not finished outside the top 2, incredible consistency, and that's exactly how he's, you can see it on the screens there, you can see it on the graphic. Incredible consistency from him.
Oh, it's absolutely outrageous how good he's been this year. Now, if he wins today, he's only going to become the 13th rider in Moto2 history to win 4 races in the European Moto2 Championship. That is thanks to our esteemed colleague, Kiko Giles, who gave us that stat there. So
that is a stat.
Yeah, that is a stat and a half, that one is. So you know that Lucas Tulovic will be in good company if he achieves that here today.
There's going to be plenty of riders looking to try and take that away from him, this being one of them. One last time out in Jerez, Alex Eskrieg, second position on the grid. Looking good all weekend on that number 11 bike. Of course, last year was the 2021 stock champion, so he knows how to win races.
He does indeed, and he proved that last time out at Jerez when he finally claimed that maiden win. As we can see in the graphic there, he's been incredibly consistent. A bit of a blip in race number 2 at Estoril, where he finished 7th. But other than that, he's just been getting better and better and better, really adapting to the Moto2 machine and also the Dunlop slick tyres this year. So he will be giving Lucas Tulovic and Senna Aegis, who are just above him in the championship, a run for the money here today. And, well, next up on the grids will be the young Australian. Only 16 years of age is Senna Aegis. Now, if you're just tuning in and you've never heard of Senna Aegis before, it's because, well, he's come into this Moto2 class this year and really taken it by the horns. And he's been incredibly consistent. Every single race he's finished, he has been inside or on the podium. It was only at Valencia when he crashed from the lead that's only been the blip in the season so far. But other than that, he's been outstanding.
Taken to that Moto2 bike so well, and it's so impressive to see for the 17-year-old. He's had 2 wins already this season, 5 podiums, hasn't finished off the podium all season long, which is such incredible form for a rookie. Like we say, the absolute rookie sensation, the number 81 Senna Aegis. So he's going to be looking to put the fight to Tulovic out the front then. The number 55 lines up in 4th position then. That's Alex Toledo. He's going to be, I mean, he hasn't finished on the podium yet at all. His best position is for, no, sorry, he did get a podium back at Catalunya actually. But he's going to be looking to try and rack up more points on his season, try and get himself back onto that podium.
Now, if we want to talk about consistency, he is Mr. Consistent. He's either finished 5th, 4th or 3rd so far this year. He'll be hoping to maybe just go at least 1 or 2 better here today and maybe take that first win of the season. Alex Toledo going from 4th in the grid, he is well and truly within the mix.
And that consistency is exactly why he's 4th in the championship. And we see that that's pretty much a theme in this Moto2 category, that a lot of these riders are so consistent. And if you have to be consistent to be at the front of this championship, a rider that we've seen quite a lot in the Moto2 category, both in the European Championship and in the World Championship, and also in Moto E, Hector Garzo, he's going to be lining up on P5 then. On the MV Agusta, slightly different chassis to the rest of them. Obviously running the Triumph engine. You have to be running the Triumph engine to be at the front of this category. But interesting choice of machine. It
really is indeed. It's a machine that can really take to a circuit. If it works really well, then it can be off into the distance running away with it, as we have seen in the World Championship sometimes in the past, where it really clicks with the circuit, is really in the mix. But Hector Garzo, we expected him to come into his championship and really be fighting at the front, but he's had quite a difficult season so far this year, coming from the World Championship in 2021, but you never know. Starting from 5th in the grid today, this could be where his season really kicks off once again. Yeah, he was looking good in practice, so keep an eye out for Garzo. Lining up in 6th then, it is Yari Ruiz, and he's going to be looking to try and pick up some positions here. He's 6th in the championship. His best result so far is a P4, and that was back at Valencia. So he's going to be wanting to break that podium duct. But it's so difficult with the competition in this class being so hot. Obviously, you've got Tulovic at the front, who's just so strong on that liquid Molly bike, and the rest of them. I mean, Senna Aegis, what an incredible talent he is as well. So a lot of the riders are going to be trying to look to be picking up their first podiums this season. Xavi Cardelus as well, a rider who's going to be lining up on P7, and a rider with so much experience as well, Cardelus, who we've seen over the years in various championships. Indeed, and well, today could be the start of something quite special for Xavi Cardelus, because his only podium of 2021 was right here last year in race number 2. So he likes his Portimao circuit, but from 7th on the grid, with the absolute pace that everyone in front of him has, it will be quite difficult for him to get within the podium battle. But Xavi Cardelus always grits his teeth and pushes at the front, and he did lead Jerez for quite a long time before eventually dropping back. So we could see more of that here today. Yeah, keep an eye out for Cardelus, but another rider as well, Bishikerski. Looked strong at points during the season. I think if anything's been his downfall, it's been DNFs during the season. I mean, he's DNF'd half of the races so far, but he's a rider who's sort of there or thereabouts, sort of breaking in, but not quite
not quite there just yet.
You feel like if he gets that podium off his back, it will just kick-start something. It could just be a run of podiums from there on. And he's never had a top 5, which is something that really...
It's surprising.
Yeah, it's really
surprising.
He's had top 5s, but he's never had top 4s or a podium, which is something that's really surprising. But you feel like if he gets that off his back, he's been there or nearabouts. His best showing so far this year was probably in Estoril, but he had a double DNF there. No points from that. So, well, maybe here today, second half of the season, it's kind of like a fresh slate where you can sort of get into a groove and then build upon that towards the end of the year.
A bit further back on the grid then, we just saw the number 31 of Roberto Garcia, the rider from Seville, just 16 years old, his 8th in the championships, best results P5, his best grid positions P5, down a little bit further on the grid today, down in P9. So he's going to be looking to try and rack up some more positions. A rider who I think at such a young age, you see so many of these riders so young in this championship, which is really surprising to see considering how powerful these bikes are and considering the level that is. But so many of these riders are 16 or younger. Yeah, incredibly young, and it just proves that Moto3 isn't the only breeding ground for young talent. Moto2 is now starting to prove that, with obviously Ferdinand Geer, 16 years old, was the Moto2 European champion last year. We've also had Alonso Lopez come over from Moto3 in the World Championship over here to Moto2, and then he's back in the Moto2 World Championship. So Moto3 isn't the be-all and the end-all. We're actually starting to see that Moto2 can develop your skills and be a breeding ground for great young talent. Now that is a good point, because the general route is to go through Walker's European Talent Cup and then go through Junior GP. But now we see riders are making it. Perhaps if you don't quite get the opportunity you needed in Moto3 or in Junior GP, you end up going through Moto2 European Championship. But let's take a little look at the grid then. Tulovic takes another pole on his season. He's going to start from pole position ahead of Eskrieg, of course, race winner back at Jerez, and Senna Aegis, the rookie sensation, in 4th. Alex Toledo will line up in 5th ahead of Hector Garzo and Alex Ruiz. A little bit further back on the grid then, Aegis will line up in 10th ahead of Rodriguez, Montero, Munoz, Paz and Tapia, rounding out the top 15. Tommaso Marcon down in 16th. He'll be looking to make up some positions from there, with Ratto down in 18th as well. So he's a rider we expect to see a little bit further up. In 19th spot then, Dino Iozzo, a rider used to race over in the World Supersport 300 Championship ahead of Ruiz, Alfano, Henrique, Volpi and Davis, rounding out the top 4 down on the 8th row of the grid. Now Davis, of course, one of the riders on the stock bikes. That's something we need to keep an eye out on as well. A lot of these riders, there's 2 categories in this championship. You've got the Moto2 European Championship and the stock class as well, which is basically stock 600 machines, aren't they? They're pretty much out of the factory, but obviously adapted to be able to race. Yes, as you say, basically at the factory, will have a little bit more in them, so they can race with the Moto2s. And to be honest, some of them, like Tapia, for example, he does get in the mix quite a lot with the Moto2 machines and beats quite a lot of them as well. So you expect some of them to be round about the point scoring positions within the Moto2 class, and that's certainly one of the interesting races, because you know the Moto2 machines really don't like it when a stock 600 bike is in front of them. No, it brings that little bit of embarrassment, doesn't it? Being beaten by a stock bike, but it brings that little bit of satisfaction to the stock riders as well. Here we go then. They're away for their warm-up lap for the first race of the day, the first race of the second half of the season for the Moto2 European Championship. Of course, the only category that has 2 races today. The race later will be different conditions, it will be hotter, but we expect to see great battles in both. Lukas Tulovic, obviously your man to watch, but the likes of Alex Eskrieg, Senna Aegis, Alex Toledo, Hector Garzo, they'll all be trying to look to try and take that top spot away from him. But Tulovic, like we said, he's been second the past 3 races. He's going to want to bring home 25 points again and get back onto that top step. Yes, he will indeed. He will be wanting to stop that run of everyone else beating him. Yeah. He will be wanting to reassert himself in the championship. A win today and a win later on will 100% definitely do that, and it'll make everyone start chasing him once again. Almost a near-perfect season so far for Lukas Tulovic. Very reminiscent of that season from Marc Marquez, where he was first, second. He's had pole every race. He hasn't finished outside the top 2. What will we see today? plenty of action coming your way then for the Moto2 European Championship as these guys get ready to start their first race of the day, of course, like we said. 2 races for these guys. And it's going to be, the pressure is going to be on Lucas, but at the same time, the pressure's not going to be on Lucas because he knows he's racked up that consistency. He knows he's got the points in the bag. He doesn't need to go out there and do anything silly.
Well, we've seen him in the paddock, and to be honest, it doesn't look like any pressure's on his shoulders
relaxed.
at all. He's so relaxed. Even on the grid, he was sitting there just in the zone, ready for the race ahead. And honestly, it didn't look like he was breaking a sweat just thinking about it. I remember talking to him after Valencia when he won the race. Barely a sweat on the guy as well. So he is one of the coolest guys on the entire grid. And that's probably why he's so cool and collected and why he's leading the championship at the moment.
Yeah, you can see that 29-point lead then for Lucas Tulovic. Senna Agius, the rookie sensation, is going to be looking to rack up the points as well. But again, not a great deal of pressure on Senna either because he's a rookie in the category. No one's expecting him to go out and win a championship. Not
at all, because he's come from Moto3 where, to be honest, he never really featured near the front. And then all of a sudden, he's come into Moto2 with an absolute bang. And Senna Agius, he may be putting pressure on himself to do well, but at the same time, as a rookie season, second in the championship, picking up wins, podiums, the guy's on form, and you never know. This could be the start of something great. And if he doesn't win it this year, then there's always next year.
Absolutely so. Look at that. Cool, calm and collected for Alex Eskrieg. They rolls up on the grid, makes everyone wait, makes the nerves settle for all of the riders. The nerves will be setting in now as they look to the lights for the first time today. The lights will be going on very shortly, and then we will be away and racing. The lights are on then, and they're out, and away we go. So it's Lucas Tulovic who's got a good start from the front, but who is it that's going to take the whole shot down into turn 1? We're away cleanly so far. Lucas Tulovic, a brilliant start from him. Look at Senna Agius up the inside. Can he get up the inside of Hector Garza? He does. Now, Tulovic away at the front. Will Eskrieg be able to bike back at him?
It's a great start from Hector Garza, but he's dropping back ever so slightly. But the number 55 there also had a fantastic start. But it's Agius who is trying to find his way to the front. A bit of a gap opening up between Tulovic, Eskrieg and Senna Agius, but that could all close up as well. But Xavi Cardoso, I was watching him further back. He got a great launch off the line, but he's dropped back ever so slightly at turns 1 and 2. Got beaten up ever so slightly. So then Doran from 7th on the grid is well in the mix and the fringes of the top 10.
And now we saw yesterday Lucas Tulovic so strong in that first sector, at one point half a second faster than anyone else. So if he nails that first sector like he has done, it gives him that little bit of breathing space that he has over Alex Eskrieg. Alex Eskrieg a little foot off the peg there over the hill. So hard to keep the front wheel down over that hill, down into the next set of corners. Now moves being made all the way through, but it is Lucas Tulovic then that still leads, and he's going to be wanting to defend that lead as much as he can, but Alex Eskrieg isn't letting him get away.
Yeah, the top 3 are now gapping Alex Toledo in 4th place now, and he's coming under attack from Hector Garza and to the left-hander here, so it might make a move stick, and he hasn't done it so far. But the battle for 4th is letting the group at the front here, the top 3, Tulovic, Eskrieg and Senna Agius, the top 3 in the championship. The masters of this class are now breaking away already. It must be up to about 7/10 of a second as we nearly complete lap number 1.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. The 3 out the front, so strong in this European Moto2 Championship. So we've completed 1 lap. We're 1 lap away, then 16 laps to go for these guys. And will anyone be able to trouble Lucas Tulovic? Very strong on the brakes down into turn 1. Senna Agius is looking pretty rapid on behind. He's right on the rear wheel of Alex Eskrieg in front, so he's going to be looking to try and make a move very soon. Now, what can Alex Toledo do? Can he stay with these guys? Can he bridge that gap? It's not looking likely.
Got to watch Roberto Garcia in the number 31 and 5th spot. Now, he's had the best result of 5th. When he made his debut in Valencia last year in the Moto2 class. He was doing the ETC throughout the last year. Oh, leery on the brakes for Garcia into turn number 5. He made the move stick on Toledo, and he's now up to 4th spot. Now he is coming on form as Garcia, the number 31, and we might have a move from Senna Agius. That was a very ambitious there.
Difficult to pass there.
Very difficult to pass there. I thought for a moment there we might be having a lunge, but he sits back. They're closing in on Tulovic ever so slightly after Tulovic was gapping him at the start of this lap.
Senna Agius now all over the rear wheel of Alex Eskrieg. What can he do? Can he get past him? Here's a little replay of the start then. It was the perfect start for the number 3 of Lucas Tulovic, and all away pretty cleanly. Tulovic then it was that took the whole shot down into turn 1, and a slow-mo replay of the side. So, look how relaxed he is on that bike.
It's incredible to watch.
The nerves are supposed to be set in, but he looks so relaxed on it.
Yeah, late on the brakes, back wheel in the air, leg dangling out, making sure that he just gets the apex pinpoint perfectly and that no one comes up the inside. And he's starting to bridge the gap ever so slightly again, and Senna Aegis is looking like he's wanting to make a move on Eskrieg and Roberto Garcia. I was talking about him a moment ago. He looks like he's bridging the gap to second and third. Senna Aegis side by side as they go across start-finish line there. A bit of a wobble from Aegis. He takes the second spot from Eskrieg. Now, can Eskrieg get back on the brakes? No, he can't. So that is Senna Aegis up into second spot. What can he do about Tulovic as Roberto Garcia, the man in fourth? He sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's now... Garcia, as we see, fast lap of the race, is already in the back of Eskrieg, and he is definitely one to watch.
Wow, impressive stuff from the 16-year-old from Seville. His best position so far is a P5, so if he can get up onto that podium, he will be absolutely delighted with that. So then, the Lucas Tulovic looks as if he's trying to break away a little bit at the front, but the number 81, Senna Aegis, is not going to let him go. He's going to put everything down that he has to try and make sure Tulovic doesn't run away with it at the front. But we've seen it in the past before. Tulovic just has that slight edge where he's got that experience. He knows how to keep the tyres. He knows how to not wear them out too quickly. And at the end of the race, he's looking like a good favourite.
And he is indeed, and he started to gap through sector 1. He was a 10th faster than Aegis through that sector, and that was with Senna Aegis getting a slipstream from Eskrieg in front of him. So as we were talking about yesterday, Tulovic has looked mighty through sector 1, but Aegis is now starting to close that back down, yeah, to half a tenth of a second quicker through sector number 2 for Aegis. So this isn't all over just yet. And Garcia is still in fourth spot, all over the back of Eskrieg. And it looks as though we've got Toledo and Gardo now starting to close in ever so slightly as well.
All the lap times very similar at the front then, all in the low 144s. We'll see what they'll do this time around. But that number 31, Roberto Garcia, the 16-year-old, he is looking so menacing on that bike. He's going to get into the slipstream of Alex Eskrieg now. Is he going to have a look down the front straight? He's pulling alongside him. Is he going to have a look into turn 1? Is looking likely. He's right in his slipstream there. Not quite able to make a move stick this time around, but he's got plenty of laps, 14 laps to go. There's plenty of time in this race. You don't want to get too rushed. You don't want to start rushing things too much. Number 81 there, though, Senna Aegis, looks like he's catching.
Oh, a bit of a moment there from Eskrieg. He ran a little bit deep into turn at number 3. That allows Garcia through. So I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe a little bit deep on the brakes. He looked over his shoulder, and he now has Toledo all over the back of him for fourth spot. So now that lets Garcia off the hook. Now, oh, we've got a mistake from Tulovic. He's run off at turn number 5. That's allowed both Senna Aegis and Garcia, and he's now dropping back down to 5th. So a bit like Jerez, he's run off at turn number 5, and he's now got all that work to do. Not sure what happened there, but maybe just outbraked himself, a bit of a bobble on the front end. But your championship leader, Lucas Tulovic, has looked mighty, and so far in this race, pinpoint perfect, has now made a mistake, and he's now got all that work to do again to try and get back to the front.
Tulovic then, like you say, got work to do to get back to the... Here's a replay for...
Oh,
it just
moment.
snaps so violently there. Perhaps put it down an extra gear than he needed to, or just slightly too aggressive on the front brake, and so easy to do there. It's downhill. It's a really difficult... It's a hard braking zone downhill. There's a bump midway through. He didn't quite get to the bump. That was granted, that was before it, but... Big moment for Lucas Tulovic, but now we have a race on our hands. He is going to be looking to carve through this pack. Senna Aegis trying to clear off out the front, and Roberto Garcia doing so well there to try and stay onto Senna Aegis. But now we have a gap out the front. As they come across the line, we'll be able to see just how much that gap is that Senna Aegis has out the front, and he's going to be looking to try and keep that as much as he can, with Lucas Tulovic trying to climb his way through. And this is big for the championship as well. If he manages, if Tulovic finishes way down and Senna Aegis finishes and wins the race, that's going to be big points for the championship.
Well, Aegis is going to feel that this is all of his Christmases coming at once. You've got him leading the race. He's now opening up the gap. It's 9/10 of a second over Garcia. Tulovic is down in 5th. Now, we're talking about his run weight again, has Tulovic there. Now, has he got a bit of a problem, or is he just coming under that bit of pressure? We're talking about how cool and calm and collected is. We may have just jinxed him a little bit, because he's now making mistakes left, right and centre there, trying to catch back up to the group in front of him. But Senna Aegis, if he just keeps it all smooth, all collected, he's in for a great chance here of picking up some very solid points. We've got a crash further back. That is the... I'm not sure that is at the moment.
We'll try and find a number on that one, but not the way that you want to end the race at all. Here's a replay of it, just going in. Oh, it's on the exit, that is. Oh, well, that's a very small little high side, but the result.
That's Jamie Davis, that is, the number 16.
Jamie Davis who's gone down, so really unfortunate for the youngster, and looks a little bit injured there as well. But it just came out that little bit. It didn't slide that much, but when it regripped and it throws you over the top, there's nothing you can do.
Well, we've seen that in MotoGP with Pecco Bagnaia at the same corner there. Really nasty high side coming out of turn number 1. But thankfully, Jamie Davis was back up on his feet and walking away, so that's good to see from Jamie Davis. Now, back at the front, we now have Roberto Garcia coming under a little bit of pressure from Alex Eskrieg. So Eskrieg ran wide at turn number 3 a couple of laps ago. He's regrouped himself. He's now coming back at the rookie sensation, Roberto Garcia. And across the start-finish line, they come now. It's only going to be a tenth of a second between them. Now, is he lining up a move into turn number 1 in the slipstream? Comes out on the brakes, the legs dangling, not quite just now. Garcia holding it steady into turn number 1 and running a little bit wide there. Behind them is the number 55 of Toledo. So Toledo is pushing hard, and Lucas Tulovic, he made a mistake at turn number 5 a lap ago. He's regrouped and he's now starting to catch the likes of Garcia, Eskrieg and Toledo.
At the number 31 then, with the pink flashes, Roberto Garcia hasn't finished on the podium so far this season or ever in the Moto2 European Championship. And he's running a little bit wide there, and Alex Eskrieg gets the power down, and that's now Alex Eskrieg up into P2. Can Garcia bite back at the number 11? Garcia was being hassled the whole time by the number 11, Alex Eskrieg. Just felt the pressure there by the number 11 on the blue bike.
Well, that's what's going to happen now. For someone like Garcia, who's just found himself, started to come into his better form, finding himself at the front now, with all of the big names around him, might be pushing a little bit too hard in these early stages just to stay with him, to keep the pace, and that's what's happening. He's running in wide, but so far, it's only St. Aegis hasn't made a mistake in the top 5 at the moment. Fingers crossed, touch wood, it stays that way, and we don't have any more incidents between them or anyone running wide. But Garcia, he's now come under a little bit of pressure from Toledo, and Tulovic, after his mistake at turn number 5 a few laps ago, is now on the back of the group.
Yeah, so Tulovic finding his way up and climbing up the positions here. He's setting consistent 44s, and that's exactly what he needs to be doing to get through these guys. All these guys in the 44s, so very consistent times for all the guys at the front, but he's right onto the back of this pack now. He's going to get a 3-bike slipstream onto the front straight, so is he going to be able to make a move? He looks a little bit too far at the moment, but he's got that slipstream. You can see that slipstream effect working beautifully for the number 3. He pulls alongside Alex Toledo. Nicely done, easily done for the number 3. Slots himself up the inside, and now he's got 2 more to go.
That was beautifully done by your championship leader, who's now starting to fight back through the field, much like we saw in Jerez after he made a mistake at the final corner there. He made a mistake at turn number 5 here, and he's now calmly and coolly carving his way back through the field. He's only got 2 more ahead of him, but then it's a big gap to St. Aegis once he gets there.
So the number 3, Lucas Tulovic, all eyes on the championship leader. How many positions can he rack up here? He's got the 2 in front of him. Looks as if in the next few laps he'll be through them, and then he's got a big task in trying to get to St. Aegis, who's 1.7 seconds away in the lead. He's all over the rear wheel of the 16-year-old Roberto Garcia now, and he's pulling alongside him. It's going to be brave to make a move into that next corner. Not quite able to do that. That would have been very brave. But as you can see, he's desperate to try and get past. He's having a little look down into turn 11. No way through this time around. It is possible to make moves there. We've said it's one of the overtaking hotspots, but it's not an easy move to make.
It's extremely difficult. You come over the crest of the hill, the bike is getting light before you come into the braking zone. But I just want to point your attention to the number 18 of Xavi Cardelus in the background. He is the 2nd fastest rider on the track at the moment. The only other rider in the 43s, along with his teammate Senna Aegis. Now, he is catching this group hand over fist. Last time round, he was half a second quicker than the men in front of him. So watch out for Xavi Cardelus. After he made a bad start from 7th on the grid, dropping back outside the top 10, he's now fought his way back through to 6th. He's now catching this group, and as we pointed out at the top of the broadcast, in 2021, here last year, he had his only podium of the season when he finished 2nd.
Yeah, so Cardelus on a mission, but so is the number 3, Lucas Tulovic. We saw him make a move here last time out. He's done it again. St. Aegis fastest lap at the front, though. It's going to be a tall order for Tulovic to try and catch that and try and match that pace, but we know what the number 3 is capable of. 1 more to go then for Lucas Tulovic, and then there is that big gap that he has to get on. Unfortunately, Kevin Orgis has gone down in the number 44, so not the way he would have wanted to start his day here at Portimao, but all eyes on the front. He's not miles away, but 2.2 seconds by the time Tulovic has gotten through Alex Eskrieg, the number 11 on the blue bike. It's going to be difficult to bring that back in such a close class, especially when St. Aegis is setting high 43s.
Well, we've just seen him set the fastest lap of the race, which is incredible because the last few laps he's just been getting a little bit quicker, and now he's broken that best race lap record as Eskrieg has a little bit of a front wheelie coming over the crest of the hill, trying to get that front wheel down. This will lose you a little bit of time, and with Tulovic all over the back of you, you really do not want that to happen. So Tulovic lining up a move on the third place man in the championship, Alex Eskrieg, the winner last time out in Jerez. Now, will Tulovic just be waiting for turn number 1 like he has done the last few laps with the likes of Toledo and Garcia?
Tulovic now then all over the rear wheel of the number 11, Alex Eskrieg. Will he make a move down into turn 1 like we've seen him do the last 2 laps? It's one of the easiest moves to make around the Portimao circuit. You can line up, look, he's all over the rear wheel of him through the final corner, turn 15, really, really fast corner. You come in onto this section with such speed and he's already going to pull alongside him. He's got the perfect drive onto the front straight and he's already ahead of him before they even get to the braking area. They're side by side as they go down the front straight and he's going to make a move at turn 1 like he's done in the past 2 laps. Cool, calm and collected, easy as you like. Outstanding
on the brakes from Tulovic there, and also outstanding coming out of the final corner. Great drive. That is the number 88 that's down. That is Nicholas Shiba. So Shiba's down at, not sure where he's crashed out, but that's Shiba that's gone down. And well, hopefully, fingers crossed for the German, that he'll be okay as he's getting attended to by the medical staff at the moment. So
it's not a sight we like to see.
Definitely not a sight we want to see. The number 6 has pulled into the pits. That is Jacobo Eskrieg, the Romanian, who's into the pits as well. So early end for his day for the number 6. So back at the front, we have Tulovic, still in second spot, ahead of Alex Eskrieg. He's not managed to gap the Spaniard at the moment, but that's just going to happen. You have a feeling of it as Tulovic set the fastest lap of the race last time round at 43.763. That was 1/10 of a second quicker than Aegis at the head of the field. So the gap is 2.2 seconds halfway around this lap. So 8.5 laps remaining, 2.2 seconds, but with only 1/10 of a second in it between Aegis and Tulovic. It might be mighty difficult for Tulovic to catch the race leader.
Yeah, will the 22-year-old be able to claw in that gap? It's a tall order. We've got to remember that fastest lap of the race he set last time out was also helped by that slipstream that he had onto the front straight. So we'll see what he's able to do there. You can see he's so strong in that final corner. Just gaps Alex Eskrieg. Perhaps Eskrieg, it's not his strongest corner on the circuit, but Tulovic really, really strong through there, and that helps his drive onto the front straight. So now he's pulling away from Eskrieg, and he's got a 2.3 second gap to Senna Aegis. So he's going to need to start clawing into that if he's going to have any chance of catching Senna Aegis. A 44.1 it was for Tulovic on the last lap, a 44.0 for Senna Aegis. So not catching him at the moment.
No, that's it. 4/10 slower than it was the previous lap. Well, Senna Aegis is just hitting these marks within a 1/10 of a second, lap after lap after lap after lap. It's very much like Fabio Quartararo out there on the Portimao circuit, just hitting every apex beautifully, and then the lap times come with that as well. Tulovic is now starting to gap Eskrieg now, so we have seen in the past that he's mighty through Sector 1. So Tulovic, your championship leader, is starting to gap Eskrieg in third spot. And there's your championship standings, 24 points in if it stays the way it is. That is under 1 race worth now. So Senna Aegis is now starting to put some pressure on Tulovic in the championship if it stays the way it is at the moment.
Tulovic is going to be thinking, what does he need to do to be able to clear away at the championship?
Ooh, he was very close to the grass there. Did you see that?
Yeah, he was using all the track and more. There was the number 3, Lucas Tulovic. But he's been so consistent, hasn't finished outside the top 2. He's on for another P2 at the moment if it stays like this. Here's a little replay of how smooth and composed he is down into turn 1. Just gets that rear ever so slightly light and skidding into using all the track, like we said, on the white line, and a perfect line through turn 1. But like we were saying, Lucas Tulovic has been so consistent here. But the problem is everyone else is so consistent as well. So he's not able to rack up a massive points lead. Senna Aegis has already had 2 wins on his season 2 so far, 5 podiums. Senna Aegis hasn't finished off the podium. So it's such strong competition here.
It's incredible competition, and the 16-year-old rookie from Australia is just getting stronger and stronger. As you say, hasn't finished off the podium this year. He had a minor blip in Valencia when he crashed out of the lead, but that so far, that has been his only blot in his copybook so far this season. So Xavi Cardolis, the number 18 in 6th, but has closed the gap to Toledo and Garcia in front of him. So Toledo, the number 55, in the middle of this group here. Garcia just in front of him on the pink and black bike, the number 31, a rookie also in this class. He made his debut in Valencia last year after coming from the European Talent Cup, and he has been a bit of a sensation. If it wasn't for Senna Aegis, we'd be talking about him, just how brilliant Roberto Garcia has been. But Xavi Cardelus, he seems like he's dropping back ever so slightly. He can close back up towards the end of the lap and then drops back during the middle and the start of this lap as well. It looked like he might have had a bit of a moment there and to the right-hander just before he came up the crest.
He lost a lot of time there, isn't he?
A lot of time there, so not sure if it was just an issue or just ran a little bit wide, but Xavi Cardelus, the Andorran rider, who was making great progress, has just dropped back ever so slightly from the battle for 4th.
The number 31 then, Roberto Garcia on the Cardoso Racing. Looks as if he's just running out a little bit of steam there. Alex Toledo looks like he's desperate to try and get past the 16-year-old, so expect a move to be coming very soon there from the number 55. 7 laps to go in this one as well. It's going to be 6 as they come across the line. Lukas Tulovic now, he is gapping Alex Eskrieg, but he's not making the inroads he needs to be doing. The gap was 1.9 seconds over the last sector. We'll see what it is now. Senna Aegis doesn't look like he's too far down the road, but then again, 2 seconds isn't a lot visually, but it's a lot in racing terms. Now, fastest lap of the race for Alex Eskrieg, almost fastest lap of the race for Alex Eskrieg there.
Yeah, Lukas Tulovic just beat him to the fastest lap of the race by a couple of hundredths of a second. They're 0.3 of a second quicker than Senna Aegis. The gap is now down to 1.7 seconds. Do we have a race on? It's starting to look like we do, because Lukas Tulovic and Alex Eskrieg are now closing down your race leader, Senna Aegis. Now, is Aegis just preserving his tyres since he has that gap, or does he not have the pace of the 2 just behind him? It's now starting to hot up, and we can really feel it here in the commentary box.
6 laps to go then, and Lukas Tulovic is on a mission. Will he be able to catch the rookie sensation, Senna Aegis? He's looking so smooth, so calm and composed on that bike. Absolutely on the limit, from white line to white line, from curb to curb, using every inch of the track and more. You can see him struggling to get using, like we said, using all the track and more there from curb to curb. And he's just looking so strong on that number 3 machine. Alex Eskrieg is going with him, though. Yeah,
Alex Eskrieg is looking sensational at the moment. Just clawing onto the back of your championship leader, Lukas Tulovic. Lukas Tulovic is looking a little bit more leery out there on the bike as he tries to get the bike turned from one side to the other, trying to get the front wheel down, and Eskrieg there just looking smooth and silky and closing the gap to your championship leader as well. I just want to point back to the battle for the top of the stock riders. We have Marco Tapia just ahead of Juan Rodriguez and Danny Munoz further back as well, just in 11th, 12th and 13th. They are behind Eduardo Montero, the other Moto2 rider. So there's a great scrap going on there. So the stock riders will be, as we talked about earlier on, will be wanting that little bit of, as you say, satisfaction and taking a position from a Moto2, especially getting inside the top 10. So that's a great scrap going on between Marco Tapia, Rodriguez and Munoz for the top stock honours. But back at the front, Tulovic is now starting to close the gap. Hand over fist is now 1.2 seconds to your race leader, Aegis. Eskrieg is going with the championship leader. 5 laps to go. It is on for the race, for the Moto2 race here in Portimao, race number 1.
And another high 143 for Lukas Tulovic on that last lap, a 43.8, but Eskrieg is going with him.
We've got Aegis down.
Oh, and Aegis has got, is that 8?
That's
yeah,
Aegis,
Aegis has gone down.
Number 5, he's coming under pressure from Tulovic. Aegis has gone down. A crash for the rookie sensation from Australia. We're talking about how good he was doing, and then he's just lost it into the downhill left-hander, which is so easy to do, Tristan.
Yeah, like we said, that's exactly where Tulovic made his mistake earlier in the race. 5 laps to go now. Tulovic can relax. Well, I can't relax too much because he's got Alex Eskrieg right behind him. But yeah, it's so easy to do. Like we said, downhill, hard braking. Probably just lost the front probably there down into turn 5. So really unfortunate for Senna Aegis. Perhaps just coming under pressure. We're going to see it now. Yeah, I think just lost the front going into it. Easy to do as the track drops away. The front gets light and then down it goes. So really unfortunate for the number 81. But like we said, perhaps just coming under a little bit of pressure there from the number 3, Lukas Tulovic. We would have been seeing on his pit board that time was coming down, just trying to get that extra little bit on the brakes. and unfortunately, that's it.
It's a huge shame because you've just felt like the spice was starting to come into this Moto2 race with both Tulovic and Eskrieg starting to close Senna ages down. Now that leaves your championship leader, Lukas Tulovic, back into the lead of the race after he made his own mistake, dropping back down the field to 5th. He's now fought his way back through the field, and like his Christmases have all come at once, he's now found himself back in the lead, but he can't relax too much because Eskrieg is all over the back. A bit of a moment there into turn number 3 from Tulovic, ran a little bit wide, and Eskrieg is all over his rear wheel, so this isn't over just yet. 4 laps to go, and do we have a move potentially coming on into turn number 5? He dips out of the slipstream, but sets back in. Eskrieg is now all over the back of Tulovic. Now Tulovic maybe thinks he can relax a little bit, has a bit of a gap, and doesn't realise that Eskrieg has now come back up.
Yeah, Eskrieg all over the rear wheel now of Lukas Tulovic, and we have a race on our hands. 4 laps to go in the Moto2 European Championship. Is it going to go the way of Lukas Tulovic? Will he return to the top spot, or will Alex Eskrieg continue his form from Jerez, taking 2 back-to-back wins for the number 11 on the blue light bike? It's between the number 3, it's between the number 11, but look at the damage that's done to the championship now. Tulovic, we were saying, what does he have to do? Continue doing what he's doing.
Yeah, just stay on the track.
Yeah.
Really what it has to do. Be fast, he's better. Made a bit of a mistake. Oh, rear wheel comes out as well.
That was again in the wrong gear, because you could see he was in a false neutral or something. He was trying to get in gear. You see when it got in gear, you saw the rear wheel just come out ever so slightly. That was gear selection issues, and I'm wondering if that's what the problem was earlier, because we said it earlier on. I'm wondering if he's just struggling with that.
You hit the nail right in the head there, Tristan. Maybe a false neutral, as we see Senna Ages dejected as he walks into the back of the garage. Your race leader for a long time, looking so comfortable at the front, just lost the front at turn number 5. But back at the front, Eskrieg now leads the way after that mistake. A second mistake of the race from Lukas Tulovic. Was it a false neutral? He just run a little bit too deep into the brake. I believe what you're saying, Tristan, a false neutral there. But can he now, with 3 laps to go, catch back up to Eskrieg, or will he settle for another second spot and less damage on his championship?
Let's have a little look at it. You see, look, he's trying to get it stopped. You can see his foot trying to get it down the gearbox. When he finally does, the rear steps out ever so slightly, and again. And he's trying, I think it's a gear selection issue there for the number 3. So unfortunate for him, unfortunate mistake. Could just be that his foot slipped on the thing. It could be anything.
But twice in one race, it seems a little bit...
It's true. Yeah,
it seems a little bit...
Does anyone want to win this race?
No, it seems like they don't. We've got 2.5 laps remaining. If Eskrieg keeps it on the road and on the tarmac, he will be on for a second race win of the season. But as we've seen so far, anything's going to happen in this race. 2.5 laps remaining. I don't know if I want to look at this anymore, because I don't want to see any more mistakes for your top men.
Well, we've asked, does anyone want to win the race? The number 11, Alex Eskrieg, seems to want it more than anyone. He's really putting the hammer down now, hitting his markers, doing exactly what he needs to do with 3 laps to go. Alex Eskrieg is looking in fine form. Hasn't made a mistake all race long. I don't want to curse him, but he hasn't made a mistake so far all race long. I'm going to leave it there.
But further back, during all that madness between Aegis going down and Tulovic running wide, missing a gear, we now have Xavi Cardelus on for another podium here in Portimao. It'll be second of the season, so he's passed both Toledo and Garcia for 3rd spot, and a great battle for the final podium position. So it's half a second between all 3 of them as they come across the line to start the penultimate lap of the race. Tulovic on that last lap was 0.2 of a second quicker than your race leader, Alex Eskrieg. The gap is now down to 0.7 of a second. He's not giving this up just yet. 2 laps remaining, 0.7 of a second. Tulovic is coming back at Eskrieg for this race win, and race number 1 in Moto2 here at Portimao.
Now, we're looking on your screens, we're looking at, this is the battle for 3rd place. This is Xavi Cardelus on the number 18, bike, the black with white and orange flashes, and just behind the number 31, that is Roberto Garcia. Never had a podium before, so he's going to be looking to see if he can get ahead of the number 18, Xavi Cardelus. Of course, really experienced, one of the oldest in the field, 24, although there is a 32-year-old in the field as well, actually, yes. But one of the older ones. A lot of them are under 20. And he looks like he's pretty much got it nailed.
Well, he's on for his best result of the season in the class in total,
Yes, yeah.
if he stays where he is, 4th spot. But he's starting to come back at Cardalusa ever so slightly. A big pop of the wheel from Xavi Cardalusa as you come down the roller coaster, as we like to term it here in Portimao. And this battle for the final podium spot isn't over just yet. Roberto Garcia sees that podium just in front of him. A bit of a moment from the rear end.
Really like that.
Oh, is that a bit of a moment to tell you to just rein it in a little bit. Take 4th spot. It's going to be your best result ever in Moto2, but you can't relax too much because Toledo is there waiting to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't care about that 4th spot.
No,
he's looking, he wants a trophy. He wants to step up onto that podium, step up onto the box. Xavi Cardalusa, though, looking pretty strong in that 3rd place. And again, the rear getting lively there for Roberto Garcia on the bike with the pink flashes. So he's going to be trying to reel that in.
Back at the front, we just had them come flashing past a commentary box. Tulovic is all over the back of Eskrieg. The gap is now down to 2 tenths of a second. And we've had the back marker run off the track. Fastest lap of the race on the penultimate lap of the race. That's outrageous from Tulovic. A 43.730 from Lukas Tulovic, your championship leader. A bit of a moment there coming out of turn number 3.
And again, gear selection. He's done it again.
I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Tulovic, another gear selection problem as he just caught Alex Eskrieg. That has now got to be all over for Lukas Tulovic. The gap is round about 7 tenths of a second with half a lap remaining. But Eskrieg, the rear end is squiggling all over the place as he gets on the power. As you said, Tristan, earlier on, does anyone want to win this race? I don't think anyone does.
Oh, well, Alex Eskrieg seems to.
Well, he's tried hard not to with the rear end popping out every time he asks for the power, but that gap is coming down ever so slightly again. It's down to around half a second. Tulovic is not giving up the ghost just yet, but that gap is surely too big for him to catch with half a lap remaining.
Like you say then, half a lap to go then for the Moto2. We're coming into the final sector and Alex Eskrieg looks like he has it in the bag. There's a battle for 3rd going on as well, but out the front it's the number 11, Alex Eskrieg, who looks as if he's going to take back-to-back wins on the number 11 machine. Lukas Tulovic has tried so hard on that number 3 machine to try and reel in the number 11, but it is not meant to be today for Lukas Tulovic. Gear selection problems seems to have riddled his race so far, but round the final corner for the final time, it doesn't look like it's going to be a drag to the line. Alex Eskrieg can relax. He's got that race win. It's 2 wins from top, back-to-back wins for the number 11. Alex Eskrieg takes the win ahead of Lukas Tulovic, and it looks as if it's going to be Xavi Cardalusa that takes that 3rd spot, but we're going to keep an eye on that battle further back, and I believe it is Xavi Cardalusa rounds out that podium with Roberto Garcia taking his personal best position in P4, and Alex Toledo another P5 on his championship campaign as well.
Look how happy Alex Eskrieg is to pick up his 2nd win of the season. He had to wait for it for a long time, but once it comes, it's like London buses, right? The 2 come along at once. Absolutely fantastic ride by Alex Eskrieg. Kept his head, kept his cool. There was a bit of tyre problems in the last couple of laps for Eskrieg. Tulovic was coming at him hand over fist. A shake of the hands between the top 2 in the championship now. So he's now brought the championship down to 36 points. So it's not a massive gap.
Did you do that in your head?
I did. My maths were never my strong point in skills, so maybe I could be completely wrong.
It's impressive either way.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I could be completely wrong by that. If I've got it right, then a gold star to me. But Alex Eskrieg, race winner and race number 1 here in Portimao, and that sets him up perfectly for race number 2 later today.
Well, a perfect race for Alex Eskrieg then, the only rider out of those top 3 trying to win that race who didn't make a single mistake. Lukas Tulovic still hasn't finished outside the top 2 in the Moto2 European Championship, and he extends his championship lead once again. So a brilliant ride from the number 3, Lukas Tulovic. He'll be happy with that one. We'll be looking to try and figure out what went wrong in there, why he was having those gear selection issues in that race. It's not something we've seen from the number 3 before, so he's going to be looking to see what he can do to sort that out for race 2 later on. Of course, race 2 later on is going to be in different conditions. It will be hotter, so expect the likes of Senna Agius to be strong in that one. We've seen how strong he is. But another podium for Xavi Cardalusa then on the number 18, the 24-year-old Andorran. He'll be happy with that result as well. A brilliant race. We just saw then the number 11 Alex Eskrieg taking his 2nd victory on the bounce, and what a race it was. So it didn't seem like any of them wanted to take the win at any point in the race, but it was eventually the number 11 Alex Eskrieg who took that victory. 7th in the championship then, going into the race, was Xavi Cardelus. It's his second podium of the season. His last one was last time out was back at Valencia. He's had 5 podiums in the history of the championship. He was 4th back in 2021. So definitely plenty of experience for Xavi Cardelus, and he's put that experience to good use, picking up another podium on his season, his second podium, like we said, of the year. He's congratulating the number 11 there of Alex Eskrieg, who's taken his second win of the year. Of course, Alex Eskrieg last year was the 2021 stock champion. He's 18 years old, 3rd in the championship. He's obviously now his second win, also racing in Moto E, having plenty of success over in Moto E as well. Not quite as much as this though. A race win for Alex Eskrieg, back-to-back wins for the 18-year-old, and he'll be delighted with that one. Celebrations in Parc Ferme then for Alex Eskrieg. You can see the delight on the faces of the team there, the Yamaha Philippines team. And interesting sponsorship there from Yamaha, considering he's riding a Kalex with a Triumph engine. But brilliant stuff from the top 3. And hopefully we'll see more of the same later on in the Moto2 race 2 earlier on. It'll be the final race of the day. They've got the first race and the final race of the day. Lukas Tulovic not happy with that one. I was just trying to see if we could hear what he was saying there, but it's just quite not possible. So Lukas Tulovic definitely was having some sort of issues with gear selection there, and wasn't quite able to do what he needed to do to get that race win. So he's going to need to have a look at that, go back to the drawing board and figure out what went wrong there. Xavi Cardelus then another podium on his campaign as well, but Lukas Tulovic is going to think, what did he need to do to win that race? Yeah, he had it almost in the bag 3 times, but it just shows you can never predict what is going to happen in racing. Here's what happened then. There's one of the moments. Absolute sideways action for Lukas Tulovic with what I think was a gear selection issue. Senna Agius unfortunately went down and out of the race. Really easy crash to have at turn 5. So he went down and out. Unfortunately, Promo Racing Garage looking on and not happy. But unfortunately, it happens. It is racing. So Lukas Tulovic, there's more of those issues that he had coming out onto the front straight. Alex Eskrieg it was that took victory ahead of Tulovic, despite all the effort that Tulovic putting in, setting the fastest lap of the race multiple times. Loads of high 143s, absolute incredible pace from the lot of them. But it was Alex Eskrieg that came out on top. Consistent pace, consistent lap times, and he goes out and takes the victory. So it just shows consistency is the key here in the Moto2 European Championship, as all these guys you see out the front, just the whole top 3 are absolutely created by this consistency. Lukas Tulovic hasn't finished outside the top 2. Senna Agius, despite his crashes, hasn't finished outside the podium. So it's so tight at the top of this Moto2 European Championship, and it's going to be so interesting to see what happens later on in race 2. Lukas Tulovic as well, also having had pole in every single race so far. He's been in Moto2 since 2016, so he's got, well, in the Moto2 European Championships, also raced out over in the Moto2 World Championship with various teams as well, with the Kiefer Racing team, with the Forward Racing team. So he's got plenty of experience on that Moto2 bike. So you can see him just talking, and now we're going to hear from the number 11 of Alex Eskrieg.
Alex Eskrieg, race 1 winner here in Portimao, a fantastic result. Just talk us through it.
Yeah, really tough race. Senna did a fantastic job, and the first laps was unbelievable. Also, my bike take a mistake in the turn 3, so I go behind them a lot, 4 seconds more or less. And then the pace was more or less same. Senna was suffering at the end. Unfortunately, he crashed. I think he's okay, and it's important for the second race. And yeah, then Tulo did a fantastic job. His pace was amazing. But behind him, I was really comfortable. I was watching him some place to overtake him. His bike also take a mistake at the final, and then I do normal laps because we are suffering a lot in the front and in the rear. And really thanks to the sponsor, the team is unbelievable. What are we doing? And continue in this place.
And in Spanish as well, please.
Bueno, carrera muy dura. Senna ha sido increíble el ritmo que llevaba al principio. Mi moto ha tenido un error en la curva 3 y he dudado si íbamos a luchar por la victoria, porque con recuperar a Senna, entre que él iba rápido, teníamos que ir muy rápido y era difícil. Pero bueno, luego hemos tenido Tulo y yo un ritmo bastante bueno, estábamos pillando porque estaba sufriendo hasta que desgraciadamente se ha caído, pero bueno, está bien para la segunda carrera, que es lo importante. Y nada, luego detrás de Tulo estaba observando dónde adelantarlo. En la vuelta que ha fallado quería adelantarlo precisamente. Y bueno, su moto ha fallado y estoy contento por la primera plaza, unas últimas vueltas muy buenas. Y bueno, luchar en la segunda por lo mismo. Muchas gracias a los sponsors, a la familia y al equipo por el trabajo que estamos haciendo, que es brutal.
Very well done. Best of luck for race 2.
Thank you.
Here's what happened then in Moto2 for the race 1 at Portimao. It was Lukas Tulovic that started from pole position and took the whole shot down into turn 1. Alex Eskrieg was looking menacing, trying to stay on the back of the number 3 rider. He was looking cool, calm and collected out the front, but it wasn't to be for the number 3 this time out. Battles all the way through, then sent Aegis to using all the track and more to get past Alex Eskrieg earlier in the race, and he was to fly out at the front, also get aided by a mistake. This mistake by the number 3, Lukas Tulovic. Gear selection issues it was for the number 3. The rear came snapping out down into turn 5, and that's a problem that would haunt him all race long. Then this big crash for the number 16, Jamie Davis, not the way he wanted to end his first race of the season, of Portimao. Lukas Tulovic then, alongside the number 11, Alex Eskrieg, was making this move all race long. Down into turn 1, was so cool, calm and collected, looked so relaxed on that bike, and then an unfortunate crash as well further back, unfortunately, for the number 82. Senna Aegis it was then that led out the front halfway through the race on the number 81 machine, until unfortunately he made a mistake down at turn 5 and crashed out of the race. We'll see that just there. Unfortunate for the number 81. Made one tiny little mistake, but the punishment was big for Senna Aegis. So crashing out of the lead, and then this mistake again. The number 3, Lukas Tulovic, struggling with gear selection issues, couldn't quite get it down the box, and that gifted the race lead to the number 11 of Alex Eskrieg. Xavi Cardelus fought his way through to pick up P3 as well, but Alex Eskrieg did everything he can, hit his markers out the front, and had consistent pace to take the victory. Back-to-back victories for the number 11 of Alex Eskrieg, and a second place for Lukas Tulovic. Despite the mistakes he made, he's saying next time out, he'll get you. Jubilation then for number 11. Alex Eskrieg takes his second win on the bounce on the number 11 machine, and absolutely delighted with that one. Lukas Tulovic rounded out the P2 and P3 for...
calling the team manager of the winning team, Tuvi Aquesta. Big applause for them. In the third position,
here is the podium then, coming up to take the third spot and another podium on his career is Xavi Cardelus, who takes yet again another podium. Lukas Tulovic, despite those mistakes, still hasn't finished outside the top 2, so he shakes the hand of Xavi Cardelus, shakes the hand of the team manager as well, and jumps up onto that P2 spot. Alex Eskrieg it was then that took victory. Brilliant stuff for the number 11, and exactly what he would have wanted on that Yamaha Philippines team. So perfect race for Alex Eskrieg as he takes his second victory on the bounce. What a brilliant race we just saw then from these guys. Hopefully we'll see more of the same next time out, but hopefully with next mistakes. You can see the disappointment on Tulovic's face. He knows there was something wrong there. I'm going to give you a second to breathe, Liam, because I know you've just been running up and downstairs to interview the riders. But you can just see how disappointed Tulovic is with that, but you can also see the jubilation on the face of Alex Eskrieg.
Now it's time to celebrate with Prosecco.
The Spanish national anthem once again then in the Moto2 European Championship for 2 times in a row, and both times for Alex Eskrieg. 2 wins on the bounce. Lukas Tulovic, though, he's going to feel a bit bitter after that one.
A little bit better, but at least he gets it all to do again in race number 2 later on today. So smiles for all round from your top 3, even though some of them are through some grimace teeth. But they all have their chance in race number 2 coming up a little bit later on. But it's your race winner, Alex Eskrieg, who takes the spoils in race number 1 here today in Portimao ahead of Lucas Tulovic. 3/10 further back was your championship leader after a few mistakes on the downshift into a few corners. Xavi Cardoso takes the 2nd podium of the year ahead of Roberto Garcia. Best result in Moto2 for the youngster, Alex Toledo, in 5th ahead of Piotr Bitkowski, who gets the 6th spot. His best result of the year ahead of Hector Gardo and Yari Ruiz. Top spot in the stock class was Dani Munoz in 10th spot ahead of Marco Tapia and Juan Rodriguez. A great little battle between them ahead of Tommaso Marcon, Mattia Rato and Mattia Volpi, rounding out your points finishers here today. Dino Ayuso was in 16th spot, and then as we look further back, it's Freddie Heinrich in 18th ahead of Alex Reed and Kyle Paz rounding out the top 20. Thomas Strudwick on the stock bike in 4th spot and 6th spot in the class and 21st in total ahead of Angelo Tagliarini. Corey Tinker in 25th spot, and then further back and last spot and 1 lap down was Italian. Well, some great action there in Moto2 to start off our day here in Portimao. And Lucas Tulovic, look at that, 31 points at the top of the standings. So my maths was completely wrong, but I said it was 36. So no wonder I failed in school. But then Senna Ages, who was your race leader for long until he dropped back, until he fell off at turn number 5, 49 points back. Alex Toledo 4th ahead of Xavi Cardoso, Rato 6th, Yari Ruiz in 7th. Kyle Paz in 10th spot ahead of Piotr Biszkirski in 11th. Hector Gardo remains in 12th spot ahead of Mikel Pons, who's missing from this weekend after he suffered some injuries in a Moto E crash at Assen a few weeks back. Mark Alcoba, the Moto E rider, in 14th ahead of Tommaso Marcon and Angelo Tagliarini. And then in 18th spot, Jamie Davis, who crashed out of the race earlier on. And then further back down the field is another host of Brits. But then it's the stock 600 podium now with your race winner. And the spoils smiles all round from the top 3 there as they were handed their trophies from race number 1. So it's now Marco Tapia who takes the lead of the championship, 2 points ahead of Alex Reed in 2nd spot, who was your long-time championship leader from the start of the season. Juan Rodriguez, who was 3rd in the race, is 42 points back in 3rd spot. Dino Ayuso in 4th, and then we've got Ryan van de Lagmat in 5th out of Nicholas Scheibe, who crashed out of the race. And then further down the field, we have Killian Estola in 11th ahead of Jacopo Hoyschwijk, who stopped during the race as well, pulled into the pits. And then we've got Zek Desgedi in 13th spot, the oldest rider in the field at 32 years of age, ahead of Dani Munoz in 14th spot. And then rounding him out at the back, Miguel Santiago Duarte, the Portuguese rider. That is your Stock 600 Championship, but it is Alex Eskrieg who takes back-to-back victories here from Jerez race number 2 to Portimao race number 1. Can he repeat the feat later on today when race number 2 for the Moto2 European Championship kicks off later on here at the Algarve International Circuit?
The Moto2 European Championship getting more and more interesting as it goes on then, and we'll be excited for that race too later on.
We will indeed.